For the title, I'm going to have a helper method called title for card. It's going to take a card as the argument, and it's going to return the title for that card. And for the background, I'm going to have UI image, background image for card. Hopefully, as we go along, you'll start to see the naming conventions that we use. We often try to have this last part of the name of a method before a colon indicate what we're looking for. So here we're looking for a card, so we try to make a thing. Look at this one, button, right? This is a button. So we try to make these arguments guide the reader towards what we're asking for there. We don't want to get too overwrought about it, but it's a general naming convention there. So what is the title of a given card? So I have the card. What's its title? Well, if the card is chosen, then I'm going to return the contents of the card. If it's not, I'm going to return empty string or nil. So I'm just going to say return card.isChosen, question mark, card.contents, otherwise empty string, let's say, or nil, either one in this case. And how about the background image? This is kind of a cool one. I'm going to say return a UI image, image name is card.isChosen. So if the card is chosen, then I want the card front, otherwise the card back. Now you probably think I'm just in love with this question mark colon syntax, which I do like it a lot. It's kind of clean. But anyway, you understand what I'm doing here, right? I'm actually having the name in here with the question mark colon nested inside the message style to get the image. Okay? So now I can use that here. Let's do the title first. I'm just going to say self, title for card, the card, and then here I'm going to say self, background image for card, the card. And both of these I'm going to hit return just to make this a little easier to see. Okay? So that's pretty much it. Okay? I've matched up my UI with my model. When I touch in the UI, I let my model know to choose a card, and we're pretty much good to go. I think that's all I wanted to show. Yeah, we'll do the score in a second here. We need a score, but before we do the score, let's go ahead and run this and make sure that it's working. Okay, so when I click, hopefully I get a random card, and when I click again, hopefully it continues to be the same card. Okay, that would be bad if that was constantly getting a random card, but we know we got rid of that code, so it's not going to do that. So there's a king, 5, 2. Okay, now we got 2 clubs right here, so I could do that. Oh, didn't match. Okay, so why don't these match? They should match. The answer, anyone want to tell me? You know?
The match function is still just direct match.
Absolutely. The only match function we have is this really bad match function. Let's go look at it. It's right here in card. Okay. This is the only match function that exists in our entire application, and it only says it's a match if both cards are identical. Well, that's never going to be true in our thing because we have a deck of 52 cards. Every single one is different. So it's never going to match. So how do we deal with this? Well, we need to teach playing card how to be a better matcher. Okay? Because card's implementation of match is simply not sufficient. So what we're going to do is we're going to override this. We're going to use object-oriented programming. That's what we're here for. So we're going to override it. Let's go to playing card. Here's playing card. Now, notice that playing card doesn't declare match in its public API. Okay? It inherits it from card. And I'm not going to redeclare it just because I'm going to implement it. So I am going to go here, and I'm going to re-implement match. Okay, it knows that match is a method I inherit. That's why it was able to escape complete it like that. But I'm not going to put it in my public API, and that's generally the way we do it. Okay, generally, if you inherit a method and a public method and you override it, you don't have to put it in your header again. Some stylistically would say, yes, put it in there so that someone knows that you override it. But most object-oriented people would say, you shouldn't have to know that you override it. Right? This is object-oriented programming. You should not have to know that. That's implementation detail that you happen to override match here. So I'm a fan of the not putting match in playing card. It's already in playing card's public API because it inherits it from card. All right, so what are we going to do in match? Well, I'm going to have a really dumb match. You're going to need a better one for your homework. My dumb match only can match one other card. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say here, let's go ahead and do int score equals 0 and return score. The first thing I'm going to say is if other cards count equals 1. Okay, so I'm only going to match one other card. Okay, if there's 2 cards in there, no match. Okay, too much for me. So I'm just going to say this one thing. Now, I need that other card, though. How do I get the other card? I'm going to say card star other. In fact, I'm going to say playing card star other card equals. Now, I could do a lot of things here. I could say other cards sub 0. But I'm actually going to use a method here I want you to know called first object. Other cards, first object. Okay, first object returns the first object in an array. If the array is empty, it returns nil. Okay, that's different than saying other cards sub 0. Because if that array is empty, that will crash. That will say array index out of bounds. You see the difference? First object, there's also a last object. They just have this magic piece to them that they don't do array index out of bounds. Okay, but otherwise they return the first object or nil if there's no objects in there. Okay, I just want you to know that. I don't actually need it here because I know there's one object in that array. So this is not really necessary. I could say other cards sub 0. It'd be okay here, but I'm just trying to teach you the method first object, that's all. So I got this other card. So let's go ahead and match it. What's a good matcher? Well, if the suits match, I'll give a little bit of points. But if the ranks match, I'm going to get a lot of points. So let's say if my self.suit is equal to string, the other card's suit. Okay, so the suits match. They're both clubs. Then I'm going to say the score equals 1. Okay, and we can say else or not because we're going to assume the cards are all different. So if the cards are the same, then you're only going to get a suit match, which doesn't even really make sense. But let's say if self.rank, oops, we don't need to send a message there. If self.rank equals the other card's rank, then let's give 4 points. Now, why do I give 4 versus 1? Well, think of the math, right? If you have a club in your hand, how many other cards are there in a full deck that will match a club? 12. Okay? If I have a king, how many other kings are there? 3. Okay? So 12 versus 3, it's 4 times easier to match the club, assuming you have a full deck. I'm just picking numbers kind of at random here. It's not a bad choice for the scoring here, but mostly I'm just trying to get this relative scoring right. Question? Yeah, so the question is, am I using magic number? And absolutely. And you probably, this whole thing of the scoring here is somewhat magic numbers in our simple implementation. You probably, this is not necessarily a magic number. If you define match to say, make the easiest match versus equal 1, and then make any more difficult matches be multiplicatively, more difficult like this, then this is actually right, because that 4 is fundamental to a playing card. It's fundamental to how a playing card's ranks and suits work, right? So assuming you define this match to only match against other playing cards in the same deck, that 4 is magic, but it's magic to this class. So yeah, you could put a # define, but that doesn't make it any less of a magic number. So it is magic, but you can put it in there. You see what I'm saying? See the difference between that and like 102 in your controller, which is trying to be, maybe generic decks? That's a little different. Good question, though. All right, so now we have a better match. So now if we go back to our controller, so let's do that. Just back on screen right here, and run. Hopefully now, let's see if we can find a match. Okay, so there's a club, right? And this is a club, so let's match them. Ready? Oh, it matched, and it even disabled them. Okay, but I have no idea how many points I got because there's no score on here. So obviously, we need a score. So let's put the score in. Hopefully by now you can imagine easily how we would do the score. Simple, just like flips. We just grab a label here. I'm going to drop it down in here. I'm going to say score 0, because that's what I want. Oops, that's what I wanted to say when we start up. And yes, it's possible you could load these strings up at startup. We'll talk about when and where to do that in your code in the next couple lectures. So I have this score. I obviously need to be able to talk to it, so I control drag up here into my interface to create an outlet. I let go. This one wants to be an outlet, not an outlet collection, but an outlet. I'm going to call it score label. Okay. It can be weak because we know that the view is going to point to it. It is a UI label. There's an outlet for it. I'm just going to update it in update UI. So I'm going to say self.score label equals ns string, string with format. We'll say score colon %d. And where do we get the score? Anyone know where we get the score? From the game, exactly, from our model, self.game.score. Okay? And I'm going to go show that just to make sure everyone understands that. Here's my card matching game. Remember that in its public API, it has the score. Okay? And we're keeping the score when we're choosing. Okay? Everybody cool with that? So that's it. That's all we need to do here to update the score. Normally we have, oops, this needs score label.text. Sorry. Okay, we need the text property of the UI label class. We're calling it setter here, set text. That's basically what's happening here. And setting the score. Okay? One other thing I'm going to do, just in case the score is really big, let's make that wide and run. And we'll talk about, by the way, text fields that get larger when you put text in them and stuff like that. There's a way to handle that in iOS as well. We can't talk about it everything all at once, though. All right, so let's see here. -1. Why did I get -1? Because I have a cost to flip. So every time I flip a card, I got to pay. All right. Now here's a spade and here's a spade. All right. So what's going to be my score after I click this? Well, clicking this is still going to cost me 1, so that's going to make my score go down to -6. But I'm going to get 1 point for matching times my match bonus of 4 is 4 more points. So my score should be -2. All right? And it is. Woohoo. Okay, let's see if we can find it ranks that match. Oh, there's a 6 and here's a 6. Okay, so I'm going to make these two match. So what's this going to be? All right, so we're at -9 now. When I click this one, we're going to be at -10. But they're going to match. I'm going to get 4 points for the match times my match bonus of 4 is 16 points. So I'm going to be at +6. Everyone agree with that? And there we are. Score +6. Okay? All right, so that's it. That's as much as I'm going to do. We've got some slides here at the end, but that's it on the demo here. And your assignment is going to be to make it so you can match 2 cards or 3 cards. You can have a little switch or some sort of UI to choose between whether you're matching 2 cards or 3 cards. And so that's going to require some change to your logic in your model. It's going to require a little bit of UI, and it's going to require your controller to do a little bit of glue in between that. You're also going to be asked to add another label in here that says what's going on. So when I click this, it should say you chose the 7 of hearts. When I close this, it should say 7 of hearts and 2 of clubs did not match, -2 or something like that. Okay? So if you pick 2 things that do match, like those 2 hearts, it should say 4 hearts, 7 of hearts match for whatever points. Question?
How would you test your program on a device?
How would you test it on a device? Okay, let's run this on a device, actually. Great question. So I have a device attached over here, which you can see, and it's asking me to update, which I'm not going to do right now.